This is why you should never trust your friend if they tell you that their pet don't bite. Charla Nash would go over to her friend's house, Sandra, every now and then to watch over her 200-pound chimpanzee. Charla knew straight off the bat that she did not like that chimpanzee because it always scared her. There was even a time where the chimpanzee jumped on Charla's back and ripped out a chunk of her hair. Charla started crying, but her friend Sandra thought it was funny. Sandra would not be laughing at anything that chimpanzee did much longer after this day. One day, Charla gets a call from Sandra saying her chimpanzee wouldn't go back in the cage and she needed some help. Charla drove over there to help her friend, and immediately after, Sandra would have to call the police. By the time the police arrived, Charla was laying on the ground with half of her face eaten off, no jaw, her nose hanging from her face by a piece of her skin, and with both of her hands ripped off. This is what Charla looked like before her attack. Her entire face was mutilated after the attack, but since the photos are super graphic, they'll be posted on my Instagram story. Part 2 will include the unsettling phone call Sandra made to the police and how she described her friend getting eaten and ripped apart. It's gonna be part 2 of why you should never trust your friend if they tell you that their pet don't bite. Sandra never imagined that after she called her friend over to help her put her 200-pound chimpanzee back in his cage, since he wouldn't go in, she would have to make a phone call to the police and report how her chimpanzee ate her friend alive. This is the audio clip.
Please!
What's the problem with your friend? I need to know.
Let the police up! With a gun! With a gun! Hurry
Who
up!
has a gun?
Please, hurry up! He's killing my girlfriend!
What is the problem?
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Oh, your chimpanzee is killing your friend.
He ripped her apart! Hurry up! Kid, she's dead. She's dead.
Why are you saying that she's dead?
She's dead. He ripped her apart.
Charla actually ended up surviving. She was rushed to the hospital where they said she looked like she had gone through a meat grinder. Charla is very lucky to still be with us today. The most recent update about Charla is in her interview with Oprah that I have linked in my Instagram story. This is why you should never let social media fame control your life. This is the story of the boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. 19-year-old Zach Latham would harass his neighbors for 2 years until they finally had enough. Lots of events led up to this incident, many involving Zach's reckless driving. Zach was emancipated at 17, joined the National Guard, and then moved in with his grandparents. And immediately he started having conflicts with his neighbors. His neighbors were the Durhams, and they were upset with how reckless Zach would drive past their house. Zach would purposely taunt his neighbors to get reactions out of them and record it in hopes that he could post it and gain some TikTok clout. Pretty sure his account got banned, so I'll be posting his videos on my Instagram story so my video doesn't get taken down. One day, Zach posted a video on TikTok of an argument he had with the neighbor's wife, calling her a Karen, and the video got 3 million views. The comments on the video were encouraging Zach to continue to mess with his neighbors. And in a desperate attempt for fame, that's exactly what he did. He continued with his reckless driving. A former National Guard continues to terrorize the safety of his community for views. Yet when he called the police, he painted himself as the victim. Police didn't interfere, so the situation turned deadly. You won't believe what happens next. Part 2 of why you should never let social media fame control your life. The story of the boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. So Zach continues to terrorize his neighbors. Since the video of him calling his neighbor a Karen went viral, he thought it was his time to shine. Mind you, the neighbors reported him to the police several times. They said that there was nothing that they could do because coronavirus caused all the courts to be closed. Zach had even tried to run over the neighbor's son with his car. This kid was crazy, like actually insane. He already had a criminal record. After Zach tries to run over the neighbor's son, Mr. Durham, the dad, drives onto the road to block Zach's car. I mean, at this point, Mr. Durham was probably thinking, okay, the police won't do anything. It's been 2 years and this kid is still messing with us. Time to take matters into my own hands. And that decision resulted in brutal death. So then Zach speeds back to his house and runs inside. On his front porch, his girlfriend is already standing there. She's recording this whole thing. And why is she standing there and recording? Because her and Zach planned this whole thing. They could record it and put it on TikTok. Neighbor's whole family follows Zach back onto his property. Zach comes out of his house with a stun gun and several knives. Part 3 of why you should never let social media fame control your life. Story of a boy who lured his neighbor to his death for TikTok clout. So Zach comes out of his house with a stun gun and several knives. Mr. Durham tries to grab Zach. Zach slashes Mr. Durham's arm with his knife. Zach then runs away into his garage. Mr. Durham follows Zach into his garage. Zach then fires his stun gun at Mr. Durham several times, and then proceeded to attack him and stab him under the armpit, which punctured his lung. And that resulted in Mr. Durham's death. The whole incident was caught on video because Zach's girlfriend was recording. She later on told the police that she recorded because she wanted it to go viral. And somehow, after brutally murdering a man, Zach calls the police and paints himself as the victim. This is part of the 911 call. What he says will shock you.
911, where's your emergency? There's blood all over the place. I just got assaulted and jumped. Are you the one that got stabbed? No, that was the other victim, but I got beat up really bad and I had blood all over me.
This is a story time about the time I dated the school shooter. This might be a long story, so please bear with me. Before you form any opinions on anyone in the story, please wait all the way until the end. Trust me, you're gonna want to listen to this story time. There was this boy who went to my school and he was really shy and he got bullied a lot. He got bullied a lot because he was a lot more feminine than other guys. And I'm just the type of person to give people the benefit of the doubt, so I went ahead and started talking to him more to see the type of person that he actually was. He didn't sit with anybody during lunch, so one day I went up to him and I sat down right next to him and I started talking to him. Immediately, I loved this boy, everything about him. He was extremely sweet and considerate and understanding, and I knew that if other people took the time to get to know him, they would like him too. So we exchanged numbers and we started to FaceTime a lot. As we started to FaceTime more, I started to notice things that were a little off about him. Every single conversation that we had, he would always have to bring up about how much he hated this one boy in his tech class and how he would shoot up the school just to get rid of him. Like for part two about how I dated the school shooter. So let me backtrack a little bit from part one. We exchanged numbers, we started to make plans to hang out outside of school, and we just started talking more outside of school, and eventually we started dating. He never really talked about this guy in his tech class until we started dating. Keep that in mind. For some reason, that guy in his tech class really bothered him. Like I said, he started talking about how he would shoot up the school just to get rid of this guy. At first I thought it was just a joke and he was just saying that, until he kept saying it. He started being so serious about it and he started planning it out and exactly what he would do when he did it. That started to scare me, and so I decided that I was going to record one of these conversations, just in case. Well, during that conversation, he said he planned to shoot up the school the next day. He said, in these exact words, "Fuck it, you know what? I'm just gonna do it tomorrow." Then he tells me to not come to school the next day. That's when I know that he was actually being serious. Immediately after, I started writing up an email to the school, like for part three. Part three of the time I dated the school shooter. So his exact plan was to use this new gun that his dad had just recently bought, and his exact goal was to get rid of that guy in his tech class, and his tech class was in the beginning of the school day. So after I wrote that email to the school about his plan and inserted the recording that I secretly took of him admitting to it, I realized that I had sent that email at around 12:05 a.m. Most of the time, the teachers don't ever email you back unless the school day has already started. That morning, for some reason, everything in my gut was telling me I sent the email too late. They're not going to open it in time. They're not going to see it in time. My mom just thought that I was sick that day, so I told her that I was going to take a walk around the neighborhood. And I totally forgot to mention that he lived in my neighborhood. I told my mom I was going on a walk, but I was actually going to his house to tell his parents. By the time I got there, his mom told me that the dad is driving him to school. I told her his plan, let her listen to the recording. So she checked where the dad put the gun and it was not there. She called the dad to tell him to check his bag. The dad said he had already dropped him off at school and he was halfway home. His tech class was first period, like for part 4. It's gonna be part 4 of the time I dated the school shooter. So let me do a little recap. So like I said, I ran to his house that morning to try to tell his parents his plan about shooting up the school, and I showed them the recording for proof. I was only able to tell the mom his plan because the dad had already taken him to school. She checked where this new gun he was planning on using was supposed to be and it wasn't there. Then when she called the dad to tell him to check their son's bag, the dad said, 1, the gun should still be there because he hadn't touched it since he put it away, and 2, he had already dropped him off at school and he was halfway home. I didn't even tell my mama where I was going. I hopped in the car with my boyfriend's mom and we zoomed. The dad had taken a U-turn and he was speeding towards the school too. At this point, first period was about to start in 5 minutes. It was us against time. We were passing cars, running red lights. When we got to the school, the mom barely parked the car. The dad was already in there, I'm pretty sure. But as we were running inside, the dad was coming out with my boyfriend. This is what happened after, like for part 5. It's gonna be part 5 about the time I dated the school shooter. Like I said, my boyfriend's parents and I sped to the school and got there in time to stop him from carrying out his plan of shooting the school. I'm guessing the dad told him that there was like an emergency dentist appointment or something. Once they got in the car, the dad made my boyfriend open his bag. And there was the gun. Child, the way my heart. You hear that? That's how fast my heart was beating at the time. It was so hard to believe that he actually brought that gun to school, like he was actually going to carry out that plan. But from what I've seen, he was just so sweet and just does not seem like that type of guy at all. Mind you, his family was a very respected family in our neighborhood. They were super sweet. Everybody loved them. They just knew that the son was antisocial. After all this happened, I did not tell anybody about this. Like, I'm a real bitch. I did not tell my best friends. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell nobody. Some time had passed and I hadn't talked to him. He wasn't coming to school and I was actually blocked on all socials. Even his parents blocked me. Went to his house multiple times, knocked on the door, nobody answered. Eventually someone told me that they moved, but I still had some unfinished business. Like for part 6, this is gonna be me finishing the unfinished business. Like I said, him and his family moved. They didn't tell anybody anything. They just packed their stuff and they left. Everyone in the neighborhood was so confused. But I kept my mouth shut. Like I said, I'm a real bitch. I needed to find the answers as to why Why did he want to get rid of that tech guy so bad? Well. So I went to tech first period just to see who was all in the classroom. I didn't actually go in the classroom, I was just standing outside the classroom. Based on where my ex was saying that he sat in the room, I figured out who the tech guy was. As soon as the bell rang for first period to be over, I ran to that tech class. I stopped that guy that my boyfriend was talking about. I told him everything. And that is when he admitted to me that one day, they were hanging out, mind you, this boy is a senior, my ex was a sophomore. They hooked up, but my ex was ashamed of what he did, so he threatened to say that he was taken advantage of. That boy said, well, I'm gonna tell people the truth then if you're gonna do that. So basically, my ex was embarrassed of his sexuality. Guessing after we started dating, he started to get super ashamed of what he did. And that's why he decided to shoot up the school.